So this is the app. Once you first opened it up, you will see it's got three main sections at the bottom. It's got the training section, the bow section, and an arrow section. Fairly simple. What you want to do first is move over to the bow section. So if you first of all select the bow setting, as you can see I've got my bow up here already entered. If you click on the plus sign, you'll see there's loads of selections of different bows you can have. So I'm going to choose my compound bow this time. So I'm going to choose compound, and then what you can actually do is you can just basically change the name of your bow. I can't change the bow type here. I'd have to delete this one and create another one, but I can just change the name to whatever you want to call it, really. I'm just going to call it compound, and the brand is up to you. Mine's a kinetic, and then you can add more fields if you want to, like draw weights, let off, rest, cam settings, stabilizers, the string use. So every single detail about your bow there you can add in. Let's just add that back in again. It's a bit difficult between using the phone and using this screencast program. You can also add in your sight settings as well. You can add loads of different distances, so you can record those, and you can change the photo of your bow so it doesn't look like a wooden training bow, which looks nothing like a compound bow. So you can change the photo as well, and then you can just add that, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a tick on the right hand corner at the top, and obviously an X if you want to come out of this. So we're just going to add that tick, and there you can see my compound bow there, and if I click on it again I can still go in and change things if I want to. So that's my bow done. Now what you can do is you can add your arrows. I've got my ACEs up here, but again if I wanted to add arrows, you can even take a photo of your arrows if you wanted to and add those in here, and then put your name of your arrows on here as well. I'll put my Eastern ACCs on there. I'd only ever probably shoot 6 arrows at once. You can put a lot more details in here, like the length, the spines, and the weights that you do. So this is pretty good to sort of record all your arrow details. I'm going to save that. So we've got my 2 arrow types in here. So we've added our bow, we've added our arrows, and then what we need to do is actually make some scores. But there are other settings in here. If you click on that left hand side, you can look at the settings, and there's quite a lot of things you can do, to be honest, which is good. Working up from the bottom, you can change the language. Backups, this is really something that was really important, that you could actually back up by clicking that, or you would get a frequent kind of backup, and this will show you your recent backups as well on the internal storage. So back up your phone as well. Timers, there is a timer in here, so you can actually practice your World Archery timings or your shooting timings. And then there's some details on the scores. When you get the score sheet out at the end, it will save it as a PDF or an image. I prefer a PDF, to be honest, but it's up to you what you want to do with it. And then at the end, you'll see in the score sheet at the end, you can see the you can turn off various points if you don't want to have it overly complicated, and save it externally as a PDF or as an image. Stats at the moment, I'm grouping via the average. You can have none or clusters. Aggregate the spots to a single target. I don't know what that really is, but again, the file type for this dispersion pattern of where you've been sort of shooting. will come out as an image file. Right, the input screen, you can keep it above your lock screen so it's always on. You can show averages and the rounds, and the target, it will show your average arrows, it will show your current end or the current round or the whole training. It's up to you. So there's lots and lots of things you can change on this. I've hardly even scraped the barrel on this really, but certain things like, say, when you touch the target to actually increase or to place your pointer of where you shot, you can change the zoom level on that as well from 1 to 5, and actually the size of the scale of the arrow when it's displayed on that actually target, on the target image as well. You can enable the keyboard if you prefer as well. What else have we got in here? Just to show you just a few settings about showing averages and percentages, things like that, so that you can play around with all these things. But let's just go back again. So that was kind of under the settings and the time error. There is a help section as well if you need some help on this, but after we've set up the bows and the arrows, really we want to get on and do some training. So what I'm going to do is, that's for the stats area by the way at the moment, we're going to do just as we did with the bow and arrow. We're going to go in and we're just going to press the plus button, and there's two things you can choose. You can choose training with a standard round. It says training with a round, but you could just shoot, you could score this round. That's what we really want to do. If you go for free training on this one instead of training with a standard round, what will happen is it will just come up to this screen, and then you can, it's very similar to the other screen when you set it up. So you've still got your weather, the arrow numbers, the bow you're using, the arrows you're using, the face you're using, the scoring, type of scoring you're using, your distance you're doing, and the date. But on here it's slightly different on the arrows, because you haven't selected an official kind of round. You then get to choose how many arrows you want to shoot per end. This is for, so you can shoot up to 24 arrows in an end when you're training. So if I want to shoot a normal kind of 6, then I'll just choose that and then press tick, and then when we're away for kind of scoring, okay. So once we've clicked on that, it's going to add the date for us in here, and then we can give it a title. So let's call that test training. Now in here we can then choose the round we want to do. Now at the moment we've got my recurve bow and my ACEs on here. Now starting at the top here, if I click on that, these are all the rounds that you can choose from. Okay, so there's quite a lot of different rounds in here to choose from. If it hasn't got the round that you're looking for, which is already entered, you might have already seen at the top that I created my own for this 252 round. Okay, and I've got another one there. If you want to create your own, it's really easy. All you have to do is come in, give it a name, select the distance, whether it's metric, whatever. Okay, choose the target face you're using. Okay, so there's quite a lot in here. There's field in here as well, and even 3D. I didn't see this before. So you've got a different 3D targets in here as well, so that's good. So there's lots of different ones to choose from. Something that you need to also think about before you click this and come out is to look at the scoring and the size as well, because obviously there's various sizes. So full size face outside 122, obviously you sometimes might be shooting an 80 as well, an indoor a standard 40 or 8 or 60. So make sure you choose that. But also something that really messed me up to begin with was the scoring, because this is going to dictate what score you get when you put your finger on the target face in the app. because what happened was I was shooting this 252 round, and it's only a 5-zone scoring round, and I first started to use it as a standard 1 to 10 or 1 to X round, and I was getting really frustrated because I didn't want it to score that for me. So I should have set this up properly to begin with. So it's always worth sort of setting this up if you need your own round to begin with, or set your sort of favorite rounds up that you're going to shoot, so that you know that when you come to just clicking on it and you're at the target face and you're ready to record your arrows, that it's going to work, and you're not going to get frustrated by it. So what I chose was the odd numbering, so 1 to 9 on that full face. Okay, so that's important. And then of course how many arrows you're going to shoot and how many ends, and you can add more. So if you've got 2 distances to shoot in a round, as we sometimes have in the UK with imperial yard rounds, you could add another set of a second round, should I say, and you could have a second set of second distance, or I don't know, a double 720 or anything like that you want to do. So I'm going to tick the yes to that. So I've got my custom round in there. It says change my target face, but basically I've already kind of added that in on my custom round. I suppose it just gives you another chance to change it. So coming down here, we've already obviously chosen our bow, but if I click on that, then I could change to my compound bow if I was shooting that, or I could change my arrows as well, because it's just a list in there. So that's where you would change your bow types or your arrows. Now, arrow numbers, I also had this turned on when I first tried this app, and this sort of threw me a little bit as well, because when you're choosing putting your finger about where your arrow went, it also asks you what arrow number it was. I found that a bit problematic, because you've then got to choose. It got a bit confusing, really. You had to choose what arrow number you were recording. It's great that functionality is there, so you can actually see what order, if you're shooting numbered arrows, and you know which one's gone in first, or you're shooting them in order 1 to 6, and you can record those arrows. It's great for sort of training, but it's a bit slow when it comes to scoring, really. So I've turned that off. You can turn it on again just by clicking it, or turn it off there. And finally, the weather. This doesn't pull the weather for your current location off of the internet and do it for you, which is a bit of a shame, really, because it'd be really good if you could have it sort of pick up via GPS or something your location and add in the weather and the wind. But if you click on it, what you can do is you can sort of change the graphics, and you can change the wind speed as well, with sort of small descriptions in there, and you can also change the wind direction as well. But it would have been nice if it had done that for me. And then that's for outdoor, obviously, because it doesn't matter indoors. But if you choose indoors, then it sort of just blanks out and you don't see it if you're just shooting indoors. And this is the location, which I believe is just a kind of I'll put London in there. It's just a free entry text field to where you are shooting if you sort of travel around, or if you're at a competition or something like that. So that's that. So I've got my round, got my bow, got my arrows, and it's sunny and there's no wind. So we're going to tick that, and then straight away we're into the target face. So we're into scoring, really. So we've come to the line, we've shot our 6 arrows, we've walked down to the boss, and we are ready to record our arrows. So with the arrow numbering off, all I'm going to do is, don't forget this is odd number scoring. So I'm then going to I'm using obviously my cursor here, but you'd use your finger on your phone or your tablet. I'm going to basically say I'd shot somewhere in the red. I'm going to go random here, and it's going to zoom in. So then you see the green dot. That it's not where you've got the finger. That's where your finger would be on the phone, on the little hand icon. But the green dot is going to be where your arrow went. So I'm going to let that go, and obviously that's recorded that as a 7 as I say. And if I do that again but on the 8, you'll see it will still record it as a 7 because I'm using 5 zone scoring. So I'm going to put that one there in the 8 and just record that as a 7, and then of course we'll get a 9 here, and we should get a 9 in the middle as well. There we go. So we're doing 6 arrows. Let's put one in the blue, 5, and another 5. Okay, so once you've done your 6 arrows, you can then click on next, and it will take you to the next end. So you'll just really carry on like that. If you want to go to the previous end and delete some of those scores, then you can just go back. It's going to be a bit late obviously afterwards, but let's put another 5 back in there. And you can see here it's kind of tried to work out my kind of grouping area as well. But anyway, let's go forward to the empty screen. So we've got details up here. We've got the average arrows kind of score up here. The round that we're on was only one round anyway. We're on N2 of 6. We've scored 42, I believe. Is that what that is? Let's go back. Uh, 24 plus 18. 42, yes. So 42 we have scored so far. We've scored 42 out of a possible 54 on there. So what else have we got along the top here? Well, we can take a screenshot of that, and we can also add comments if we want to. And then finally in the menu on the top, we can go back to the options screen or the settings screen, and we can turn on the timer, the shooting timers on and off as well. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so that's how you add your scores, and you would just carry on until you had shot all of your ends really. Now I just want to show you the difference between the two ways of actually entering scores. Now, some people like putting their finger on the target, and some people like to just enter a number. They're not worried about exactly where the arrow went. So the default way for the app is to actually you would put your finger on the screen where the sort of hand is at the moment, and you see the green dot on the screen. That is the place where your arrow landed. So I can just drop that where I want and let go, or I just press the screen. So that's, see the dot there, it's just classed that as a 9. But if I change this in the options and I choose keyboard enabled, now I'm left-handed, so I'll be interesting to see what that does. And then I'm going to go back. Right, so now we've actually just got the numbers on the screen, which is a lot easier to choose. So if I had a 7 on that shot, because obviously I'm scoring in odd numbers, 5 zone scoring, I just choose, I got a 7, I've got a 9 and a 7. It's not ordered them in the way I would kind of order them. Ooh, what's going on now? Okay, so I've chosen that 7. I've got my 6 numbers. So I keep adding numbers. Does that mess it up? No. So if I choose my change that to a 7, right? So I've highlighted that and I'm changing it to a 9. Great. Okay, so I click on it. I don't know where that's going. 5. Okay. Choose that 7 and make it to a 9. Okay. So that's a way to change it. Basically click on it and then choose the correct score. So there's no clicking on the actual target itself this time around. You're just choosing them on the left hand side. I've got them on the left hand side because I chose left handed. They'd be on the right hand side if I chose the right, and I know they would. It's obvious. Yeah, so it's going to be on the right hand side if you choose right. So it's up to you if you like to know exactly where your arrows went, or you like just touching the screen, or you just want to be faster and do it this way. That's totally up to you. Now while I'm on here, I'm just going to look at the timer. We'll go next. We can touch the screen, and then we're going to get some noise, and then we're going to get a countdown for the start. There you go. So I'm just going to come out of that and turn the timer off. Oh, yeah. Let's just come back out of here and just go to the timer, because you can actually change the obviously it won't lock out. You can have sound and vibration, or just vibration and not sound if you want, and you can change all the settings for the amount of times for the timers. But one thing I just wanted to look at was what? Good question. Oh yes, this is what I wanted to look at. If you are basically, the arrow diameter scale is based off the diameter that you set in your arrows. So if you see a tiny dot on the target and you're scoring that way by putting your finger on the target, then that is what the diameter it will show at 1 times by default. But we can increase that. So if we go to the full size 3.5 and then turn the keyboard off, so we're going to score it again with our fingers. So I want to change that score. Then you can see that the arrow itself, the diameter, and it's even got now a number on it showing you where I am, 5 zone, look all the way out to 1 and miss 1, miss 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So that's pretty good. But obviously the arrow is a lot larger now, as opposed to having a tiny sort of dot on it. And if we go back to the options again, what we can do is increase the zoom on there if you want to get really close to where you scored. There you go. So I can really get close now and choose where I'm putting my arrows. I really get quite specific on my shots. So it's back up to the main round screen. It showed the first end of arrows here with your scores, which is quite nice. And then if I go to this one on the end, this gives me my current score sheet. I'll come on to that in a second. Again, you can add comments for the actual round itself, or go straight to the stats. So average arrow score per end. Obviously we've only done one end, and we've got an average arrow score of 7, so it's done a nice sort of distribution chart as well of my scores in various colours as well. And we've got this dispersion pattern that you can save as an image, and then we can actually send this as a file or as an Excel file if we want the data coming out of here as well. So that was the stats. Let's go to the score sheet. So if I'd finished the round, obviously you'd see a lot more ends being shown up, but you can see I've got my date here, the weather, the bow I used, the arrows. It was a custom round, that was the name of the round. my distance, my target used, and it's got my scores color coded, and it adds them up, and it's counted how many arrows I had at those scores, my hits and my averages. And you can actually tap on your phone screen and sign there as well, and tap there with your target cap can sign that as well, whoever was recording the scores, but mainly that's probably you on your own app. And you can actually share the scoreboard, the score sheet should I say, or you can print it out. And here it gives you back to the menu where we saw before, where you can change it to an image type or a PDF file, and you can get rid of some of the parts, like you can get rid of the signature or the comments that you may have made, or of the stats. So if I get rid of the stats, let's go back and have a look. So yeah, you can see it's got rid of those averages, those arrow averages at the bottom. So that's pretty good. So this is still that first round, because we can have multiple rounds in here. And then we come straight out. Now this is another one, the one I shot the other day that I recorded. I didn't record this at the time, I did it at home afterwards, because I was getting very frustrated with the app, only because I'd set it up incorrectly really. So this was my round, and this was what I shot on 5 zone scoring. And then it's a bit more less colourful because it's just 9s and 7s. And then there's the kind of dispersion pattern there. And that was the scorecard. So this is a pretty good app overall for the first app, MyTargets from Mantis. I didn't like it to start off with because I thought it was really frustrating. There are a lot of settings you can change. You don't have to have the arrow numbers in there, which was a little bit confusing because that was on by default, so I had to turn that off. But overall, I do quite like it. It's the first one I've tried. It's very difficult to pick a favorite when you've only tried one. So we're going to carry on, and we're going to try some more of these. Brilliant. Thanks for watching this one. I hope you found it useful, having a look at this first app just to see what it's like, and I hope you stay the course and watch the next ones that I do as well.